A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. In a significant and controversial move, Israel has formally approved the construction of thousands of housing units in the E1 area, a strategic stretch of land located east of Jerusalem. This decision marks one of the most contentious settlement approvals in decades and effectively revives a plan that has been on hold for over 20 years due to widespread international opposition, particularly from the United States. The E1 corridor is critical as it forms a narrow land bridge linking the northern and southern parts of the West Bank. For Palestinians, this corridor was envisioned as the natural link between Ramallah in the north and Bethlehem in the south, cities that are merely 22 kilometers apart, but currently require long detours through Israeli checkpoints. If the settlement is built, it would effectively sever the West Bank in two, isolating East Jerusalem from the rest of the Palestinian territories and making the establishment of a contiguous Palestinian state nearly impossible. Historically, successive Israeli governments have refrained from finalizing this plan due to pressure from both U.S. and European governments. However, the current decision comes amid shifting geopolitical realities and Israel's increasingly hardline stance, driven by a coalition dominated by right-wing and far-right ministers. The announcement has already drawn widespread condemnation from various international actors. Several European countries, including the UK and the Netherlands, have imposed sanctions on senior Israeli officials, including Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who have been accused of inciting settler violence and promoting policies of ethnic cleansing in Gaza and the West Bank. Finance Minister Smotrich, a former settler leader, welcomed the decision as a direct challenge to Western governments that have recently moved to recognize Palestinian statehood. He stated, "The Palestinian state is being erased not with slogans, but with actions. Every settlement, every neighborhood, every housing unit is another nail in the coffin of this dangerous idea." His comments reflect a broader agenda within Israel's current government to dismantle the two-state solution entirely. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, while less vocal at the time of the announcement, has long opposed Palestinian statehood and has instead advocated for policies that expand Israel's sovereignty over the West Bank. The approval of the E1 project is perceived by Palestinian leaders as a devastating blow to their aspirations for statehood. For decades, Palestinians have hoped that the land between Ramallah and Bethlehem would serve as the geographic heart of a future state. Instead, the expansion of settlements has forced them into fragmented enclaves, isolated by walls, fences, and checkpoints. Today, Palestinians traveling between these cities often spend hours navigating detours and Israeli military barriers. The expansion of settlements in E1, along with other large-scale projects, would further restrict Palestinian movement, exacerbate economic hardships, and entrench what human rights organizations describe as a system of apartheid. The announcement regarding E1 coincides with escalating violence in the West Bank. Over the past year, there has been a notable increase in violence, with human rights organizations warning that the combination of settlement growth and settler violence is creating a dire humanitarian situation in the West Bank, even as global attention is largely focused on the ongoing war in Gaza. While the international community's gaze has shifted to E1, the Israeli military has simultaneously intensified operations in Gaza. On August 20th, 2025, the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, announced the commencement of their offensive on Gaza City, the largest urban center in the enclave. IDF spokesperson Brigadier General Effie Defrin confirmed that Israeli troops are now positioned on the outskirts of Gaza City, marking the initial stage of a planned urban takeover. This operation is part of Israel's broader strategy to defeat Hamas after nearly 2 years of fighting. To sustain this military campaign, Israel has ordered the mobilization of 60,000 reservists, marking the largest military call-up in months. In a nation with a population of fewer than 10 million people, such mobilizations carry significant military, economic, and political ramifications, removing tens of thousands from workplaces, families, and schools. This decision follows mass protests across Israel, where hundreds of thousands have taken to the streets demanding a ceasefire. Many Israelis are increasingly concerned about the war's human toll, the economic burden, and the government's lack of a long-term strategy. The assault on Gaza City threatens to exacerbate an already dire humanitarian crisis. Human rights groups have accused Israel of deliberately using starvation as a weapon of war, a claim that Israel has denied. Ceasefire negotiations remain fragile, with reports suggesting that Hamas has recently accepted a 60-day ceasefire framework involving prisoner exchanges, but Israel has not formally responded to this proposal. Meanwhile, U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee has blamed recent European decisions to recognize Palestinian statehood for undermining ceasefire talks, labeling them as counterproductive. This reflects Washington's increasingly uneasy balancing act, criticizing settlement expansion while continuing to provide Israel with diplomatic and military support. The simultaneous approval of the E1 settlement project and the launch of the Gaza City offensive underscores Israel's determination to reshape the realities on the ground. For Palestinians, these developments represent both an immediate humanitarian emergency and a longer-term political crisis, as their hopes for statehood continue to diminish. For the international community, this situation highlights the urgent challenge of balancing condemnation with action, as the conflict threatens to spiral into an even greater regional crisis. The international community must now grapple with the implications of these actions and consider how to respond effectively to prevent further escalation. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.